Children, era of Gandhi. Gandhiji, his influence not only spurred a big movement in the cities and towns, but it spread to Indian villages too. He had a big following in the rural side. He was a great philosophic guide. He guided the nation. There's a vacuum in the country in a way people did not know how to thwart the efforts of the British in consolidating their power in India. And Gandhiji guided them. First of all, we have to set our home right. We have to be humane, truthful, very disciplined. Then we will be able to thwart any attempt by the British to get stronger and stronger. We should be very honest, truthful, and sincere in our job. We should never turn violent. We should be calm and quiet, but logically speaking, every step we keep should be upright. One such village which came under the absolute philosophical impression or influence of Gandhiji was Isur in Karnataka. Isur is a village in Shimoga district. Shimoga was a part of the Mysore kingdom then. So Mysore was a princely state. So naturally, people were under the British government. So it was 1942 when there was Quit India movement all over the country. In Mysore, people were absolute followers of Mahatma Gandhiji. Everyone in Mysore, in that village, they wore Gandhian cap. That had become the uniform of the day. Everyone had to wear Gandhi cap. Officials, British officials, were barred from entering the village without their permission. No Britisher, no official appointed by the British can enter the village without their permission. And in case they have to enter, they have to wear Gandhian cap. See, what a misery again. The officials have to wear Gandhi cap and come inside, which they were reluctant to do because there's one going against the British administration. So that was the situation, and they were absolutely geared up to take up satyagraha, hold rallies. Every day the village elders used to get collected in one place, discuss about the national issues. When that was it, a policeman who entered in, he fires at the villagers. Calm and quiet villagers were raising slogans. He fired at them. The moment the police opened firing, people, they got angry, they got enraged, and they caught hold of the officials, lynched them, and killed them. Some of the officials were killed. Now that is the Isur incident. What happened later was all history. The British pounced on that village and most of them were taken into British jails. They were taken to jails, put behind bars, punished. Some were hung. That's all the story. Farmers and workers' revolts were quite common all over the country. So this national freedom movement was not confined to a small section. All sections of people, they joined the national movement. Day by day, the numbers were swelling. More and more people were taking active participation in the national freedom movement. But from certain angles, even Marxist ideologies were flowing in. Marxist ideologies, which China had turned into communism. Russia was a communist country. And communism, that philosophy was such, they wanted to spread it over the entire world. What they said? Farmers and laborers, especially. The world belongs to them. The world belongs to farmers and laborers. So they have to rule. The power should get vested with them. So Marxist theory was against imperialistic theory of the West, imperialism of the West. So there were farmers' revolts everywhere. People who are conversant with the Marxist ideology, they are trying to educate the people and bring them on the new line. Farmers revolted against the British planters, zamindars, because they all became a symbol of imperialism. Planters, moneyed planters, they were occupying lands on the hill slopes, and coffee gardens were getting coffee plantations. They were clearing the trees, coffee plantations were coming up, and they were the rich. So the anger of the farmers turned against the planters. Anger turned against the zamindars. Zamindars never used to get into the field and work, but the ordinary people had to work there, and zamindars, landlords, they used to exploit the farmers, exploit the laborers, and that was something that wooed the feelings of the ordinary people. In Champaran, Bihar, indigo plantations, indigo cropping, they are doing the same thing. The Marxist ideology was taking sway on one side. On the other side, the Gandhian representation was there. Protest against land tax, where they started questioning the British as to how can they levy a heavy tax on the Indians. They were levying a very heavy tax. Compared to today, that tax was something incorrigible. You cannot understand it. Satyagrahas became a routine of the day. A daily routine everywhere, satyagrahas taking place, people taking rallies. Kheda in Maharashtra, that was another center where farmers rose in a revolt. Then Thabaga in Malabar, in Kerala, Malabar, revolt against the British and the zamindars. There, the Congress, the Gandhian ideologies had this way. They played a prominent role. There was non-cooperation movement throughout the country. People were not cooperating with the British. Tax refusal, people were rejecting the orders of the government. They are refusing to pay tax. Quit India movement. And the Quit India movement started. People with all interest, enthusiasm, they joined the national movement. Then in Telangana, people went against Nizam. Nizam, the richest person then in the world, it was said, he exploited the ordinary people. He never saw the labor they put in. He always thought they are born to serve others. They are born to serve the king Nizam. So their anger, people's anger turned against the Nizam. And these laborers were being paid a very low wages, very low wages. It was very difficult to pull on with whatever Nizam paid them. So Telangana became the key place where farmers and laborers' revolt reached the sky. Workers started revolting everywhere. Workers' revolt, especially workers who were serving in the industries. It started in Calcutta. 1827 it started. 1827 onwards you see a continuous development of this anger and rage, and even the thoughts of the people. It was undergoing a vehement change. Jute, where they were growing jute, cotton mills, jute mills, cotton mills. Lots of people were working there. Then in the railways people were working. Then printing presses, people who had to join the letters and print. It's a big job then. Printing had begun everywhere. Labor unions were founded in Madras too, labor unions. So, lot of different factors, they were all meeting at one point. What was that ultimate point? To make the country free from the yoke of the British rule. So the contributions of these laborers, the workers, the farmers, the common man, all these we have to recognize with lot of respect. The struggle, freedom struggle became a commoner's struggle. Everyone wanted the British to get out of this country. Added to this now tribals. Tribals revolt started. Tax and forest policies of the British were very disturbing. Revolts of Santala, Kola and Munda tribes, Mundas. They were all alarming. The Santals, the Kolas and Mundas. They are the key tribes in the central part of India and in the eastern part, Bihar, West Bengal, that part. So in the hilly areas of Bengal, two tribal movements, they spread like wildfire. They were against zamindars, money lenders, and the British. Money lenders, they represented the British from their angle. Money lenders used to charge a very heavy interest, very high interest on people who took loans from them. So when there was famine, when there was problem, money lenders used to help. And the money that's given used to carry a very high rate of interest, which people were not in position to pay back. So people were being lynched and private prisons used to be there. These landlords and zamindars had their own prisons. So people who do not pay taxes, they were being lynched and put in those prisons. They exploited them. They did not have an iota of kindness from the viewpoint of the normal people carrying on with their life activities. Miserable it was. There was poverty, there was misery everywhere. On the other hand, there was exploitation by zamindars, planters, landlords and the British. So the situation was horrific. Kolas and Mundas, both these tribes, they revolted against zamindars. Okay, that was the situation prevailing as the country was heading for independence stage by stage. So we should always keep in mind, besides the national leaders, the common people of India took a vigorous action. They played a big role in managing the freedom struggle. It's not from any one section of the society. All sections of the society took part in our national freedom movement. And Gandhiji was for it. He was educating people, guiding them, disciplining them, making them the right kind of volunteers for the struggle, and giving them a clear picture of what is going on in the country and what should be our future, planning for our own future. So Congress volunteers, a highly disciplined group trained by Gandhiji, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel and many others, played an important role in bringing the country under a powerful movement against the British. Now, besides the fight within the country, let us also know that there was a big struggle and revolt brewing beyond our borders. This freedom struggle was not confined to the boundaries of India. Even beyond that, Ras Bihari Bose, Madam Kama, more than everyone, Subhash Chandra Bose, a force to reckon with. He carried out the struggle against the British beyond the boundaries of India. Let us see, in a nutshell, the role played by Subhash Chandra Bose. He was from Cuttack of Odisha. Now we recognize him as a Bengali. Actually, he was from Odisha, Cuttack. A decisive leader. Right from his school days, he was a decisive leader. He studied for ICS examination, Indian Civil Service, and got 4th rank in that. So academically he was strong, and he had a strong intent, and he wanted to fight the British until the country gets independence. He became a part of the freedom struggle of India. Maybe as he grew up, he could not stay in India at all because the British wanted to arrest him and put him in jail. The only way out for him was to escape from their clutches, go abroad and bring together people, Indians who are staying abroad, build up a powerful force and fight against the British. He organized Indians residing outside India. He went to most of the European cities too: Vienna, Berlin, Rome, Istanbul. So in the beginning he was a volunteer here, a Congress volunteer, just like Jawaharlal Nehru or Patel. But he had a lot of difference with Gandhiji as regards the ideologies of Congress. His ideologies were different. He always thought without a military strike, we will not be able to drive the British out of this country. Gandhian ideals of non-violence and truth, he always respected them. He had great reverence for Gandhiji. That has to be kept in mind. Nowhere he criticizes Gandhiji outright. The difference was only in the aspect, how should we fight the British and see that they are driven out of this country. He thought non-violent struggle will not be able to boost our efforts. We need a strong military to strike them down. So, Subhash Chandra Bose, he became president of the Haripur Convention of Congress, Haripur Convention of Congress. With the help of Gandhiji, he got elected as president. Gandhiji too had great respect for Subhash Chandra Bose, the enthusiasm he had, the willpower of Subhash Chandra Bose, but ideologically the two were absolutely different. They confronted each other. Subhash Chandra Bose, to put it in simple words, his was a hard line approach. Gandhiji had a soft approach as regards freedom is concerned. Subhash Chandra Bose had a hard line approach. We call it as hard line. And the ideologies of Subhash Chandra Bose were influenced by the leftists. I told you Russia and China had communist regimes. That was a period when leftist ideologies were appealing to the minds of the people everywhere. Even the world situation was such. Imperialism had spread everywhere. European countries had taken control of almost the entire world. America had got independence, that's different, United States. Other than that, most of the Asian countries, African countries, Australia, in this entire part, Britain, Holland, Spain, Portugal, they all had territories under their control. They are exploiting them. They were looting them. So people were easily getting convinced about the leftist ideologies. If these imperialists have to be taught a lesson, we have to back up leftist ideologies. Because communists always hated imperialism. Before communism came into force, Russia had imperialism. China had imperialism. The imperialist forces were struck down and the communist forces took over. There was bloodshed, there was violence, and ultimately the communist forces succeeded. Congress Socialist Party, it came into prominence. Congress, it's not just Congress Party, you watch my words. Congress Socialist Party. Within the Congress, a socialist forum took shape. Surprisingly, not only Subhash Chandra Bose, even Jawaharlal Nehru came under the socialist tendency, socialist thoughts. Jawaharlal Nehru too had differences with Gandhiji. Whenever Gandhiji went soft, Nehru used to boil within. Subhash Chandra Bose, he was open in putting forth his confronting views. So, Subhash Chandra Bose and Jawaharlal Nehru together, they contributed to the Congress Socialist Party, a party within a party. The socialist forces, they were getting consolidated within the Congress. Afterwards, Subhash Chandra Bose again gets re-elected. These elections were taking place every year. Again, Subhash Chandra Bose got elected as president of the Congress party. But he had to resign ultimately. He could not carry on at all. Because Gandhiji came down heavily on the ideology of Subhash Chandra Bose. Gandhiji was reluctant to receive that. He did not accept the ideologies of Subhash Chandra Bose. So he came under tremendous pressure, and Subhash Chandra Bose had to resign the presidential post which he was carrying and walk out of Congress. He quits Congress. He could not stay anymore. He founded another party called Forward Bloc. Forward Bloc. It was based on his ideologies now, socialistic ideologies. And he started carrying on with the various independence rallies, processions, fight against the British, and trying to bring people under the sway of his new ideology. Bose was arrested. He was put under house arrest. But he escaped from there. He knew that I will not be able to do anything, as he was violent. His was a hardline approach. The British would definitely keep him behind bars for a very long time. He knew it very well, so he escaped India. Under disguise, he goes to Lahore, and from Lahore he escapes our country. You should read the life history of Subhash Chandra Bose for all that. And from there, without the notice of the world, he reaches Germany. You can figure out as to what the reason was. Hitler was reigning high. Hitler was a big name. He thought, I should go and meet Hitler. He went to Germany. From there he addressed the world from the German radio. Then even the British came to know, oh, the person whom we were chasing, he is in Germany now. But the bird had escaped. They were never able to catch him again there onwards. And from there, he met Hitler, spoke to him, and Hitler assures him all help in his fight against imperialism. There's a big shot in the arm for Subhash Chandra Bose. Hitler declares all-out support to Subhash Chandra Bose in his efforts. And there he talked to Madam Kama, then he speaks to Ras Bihari Bose, and he gets Indian prisoners of war there, gets them out of the prison and starts building his own army. But he did not stay in Germany for long, for the reason he wanted to reach Japan. Japan had an upper hand in the Second World War. In the initial few years, Japan did very well. He thought, it's better I join hands with the emperors in Japan, build up a military force and attack the British India. So, what a vision, what an image, what a plan. Maybe he was a hardliner, but see the amount of interest he had in getting freedom. Seeing that we come out of the yoke of the British rule, the love he had for his land, the love he had for Mother India, is something amazing. Bose joins hands with Ras Bihari Bose. Then at Tokyo, once he reaches Tokyo, there he builds up India Independence League. He declares it open, India Independence League in Tokyo. He starts building up the Indian National Army. Singapore became the headquarters. Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, that area was his area where he was getting all the foreign prisoners, teaming with them and getting them trained up. So INA, which had about 1 lakh soldiers, not a small number, 1 lakh soldiers. All these soldiers were Indians who were staying abroad, Indian prisoners who were lingering in the jails of the Axis forces. He got them released, trained them up, and ultimately decides to walk towards Delhi and attack the British. He called it as Delhi Chalo. Delhi Chalo. So the forces, a section of the forces, they moved into Burma. From Burma, they reached the Indo-Burma border near Assam. There they started fighting. Agartala fell into their hands. Agartala, a British town. And everyone in India felt, they came to know, Rangoon had fallen, Agartala had fallen, and people here hoped before Gandhiji would be successful in getting independence, Subhash Chandra Bose would reach Delhi and hoist the Indian flag. There was a big commotion within the country. Commotion. What would happen? What will happen next? What's happening in the border? How strong are our forces? Because people loved both. People loved Gandhiji on one hand, people loved Subhash Chandra Bose too. But the approaches were different. So Bose's Delhi Chalo became a hit of the day. He said, "Give me your blood, I'll give you freedom." See the enraged words of Subhash Chandra Bose. "Give me your blood. Get ready for the supreme sacrifice. I'll give you freedom." These were the words of Subhash Chandra Bose. When people in India heard it, there was a lightning, a tremendous urge in them to fight for the country, to fight for Subhash Chandra Bose. And at this time, the British forces were busy, engaged with the German forces. If Britain had been a free country, they would have definitely put down this entire revolt. But that did not happen. The British forces were all fighting the forces of Germany, Italy, and they were busy there in Europe. Even lots of Indian youth too were serving them. And Captain Lakshmi Sehgal, a word to be reckoned with. Under her, there was a women's force, a women's regiment in INA. It was almost the first women's regiment in the world. Subhash Chandra Bose, he builds up a women's regiment and puts it under Captain Lakshmi Sehgal. She became the commander of the women's regiment. That was the women's wing of the Indian National Army. And they attacked India. INA, Indian National Army, attacks India. And it was all a confusion at that time. Some people say Subhash Chandra Bose died in an air accident as he was flying from Japan to Singapore down south. But lots of people, they say no, it did not happen. He was caught by the Russians and he lingered there in the Russian prisons for a long time. But with the news of Subhash Chandra Bose's death in an air accident, the entire effort of the INA, it came to a flop. Because the man who filled them with the spirit, enraged spirit, he was no more. and the British were able to run over the forces, get them arrested. They were caught, put to prison, only to be released later after we got independence. The government of Free India spoke to the British, spoke to the Axis forces and the Allied forces, leaders there, and ultimately we were able to get them released after the Second World War. After the Second World War, with permission from Soviet Russia and Britain, Indian soldiers were released. That was Subhash Chandra Bose, a great champion of freedom, a great leader whom we all respect even today. Now, one more person about whom you have to know quite a bit. It is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The moment I say Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, you remember that he was the architect of the Indian Constitution. The architect of Indian Constitution. Very important aspect. He has been decorated, honored with Bharat Ratna by our government. So is Bharat Ratna Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He always felt that political freedom of the country won't have any meaning without social freedom. People are in shackles. A huge chunk of people, they are untouchables in the country. They are not in the four of wisdom. Majority Indians are not permitting them to mix with others. So they are leading hell of a life. They have to be released from these shackles. They have to be brought to the fore of the country, the mainstream of the country. So Dr. Ambedkar was of the opinion that political freedom without social freedom is meaningless. So we have to strive hard for social freedom too. It's meaningless, he called. It becomes only for namesake. He devised many strategies to destroy the caste system in the country. He came down heavily on the caste system. Untouchables were denied even the basic human rights here. Basic human rights. The upper sections of the society were not ready even to touch the untouchables. But Gandhiji gave them a special place. He called them as Harijans, the children of God. Harijan, children of God, he called them. Embrace them, try to bring them into the mainstream. Now Mahad tank movement is a great movement, and the Kalaram temple movements were organized by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Temple tanks were not to be used by the untouchables. Untouchables were not being permitted even to come to the vicinity of the temple. They did not have permission. They are being kept away. Now there has been a lot of change now. We are speaking of then India about 100 years ago. Kalaram temple movement. But these did not raise such an alarm at that period. Dr. Ambedkar led the untouchables. He made them use the temple tank, and he took them inside the Kalaram temple. No doubt it was big news then, but these did not create that much of ripple. But whatever it be, Dr. Ambedkar wanted to unshackle the bondages of the downtrodden. Here's a leader who was very much worried about the future of the downtrodden. They have to be given a life. The country will get freedom, no doubt. When will they get freedom? When will they be recognized? So there were a lot of differences between Gandhiji and Ambedkar. I told you, Gandhiji wanted a peaceful method of bringing these communities inside. Even in Sabarmati, he had the Dalits in the Sabarmati ashram. When reservation issue came up, the British planned to reserve assembly seats for the Dalits. Ambedkar hailed it, but Gandhiji opposed it. This is just a technique. These techniques won't work. By law, by rule, you cannot enforce, he said. Gandhiji wanted a change in the hearts of the people. Go to villages. Let our volunteers go from village to village, guide people, tell them, bring about a transformation in their thinking, and that will sustain for long. That's what Gandhiji thought. But Dr. B.R. Ambedkar wanted law, regulations, rules. It has to be forced, he said. Country won't mend its ways unless you bring it with a pinch of force. So this is where Gandhiji and Ambedkar differed from each other. Ambedkar started Bahishkrita Hitakarni Sabha, one of all the downtrodden, Bahishkrita, those who had been put out of the society, Bahishkrita Hitakarni Sabha. This is a Sabha that will do good to them, he said. Then Swatantra Karmika Party, laborers, a party of the laborers he started. He started periodicals, Prabuddha Bharata periodical, Janata, another periodical, Mookanayaka, a third one, and Bahishkrita Bharata. So at different times, different periodicals they came out in order to bring about a change in the minds of the people. When the constitution had to be formed, Indian constitution had to be formed, the country thought the right person to take it over would be Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So he was made the chairman of the drafting committee. Dr. Ambedkar became the chairman of the drafting committee. It's a big job, very big job. And British officers laugh at it. What constitution will these people prepare? Over the constitution, the various factions in the country will fight over. And that itself will bring an end to the future of the country. They will not be able to build up a constitution which would get accepted by all sections of the society, they said. Churchill laughed at the proposals. Churchill never thought Indians will be able to rule themselves. But it happened. The Constitution Committee was presided over by Dr. Rajendra Prasad. And chairman of the drafting committee was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. It's a big job done. The entire world got amazed looking at the wonderful work done by Indians over a few months, over those 3 years there, and successfully bringing out the constitution, which was accepted by the entire country on the 26th of January 1950. From there onwards, we become a republic. Equality was the prime aspect of our constitution. All are equal. See what Dr. Ambedkar and Gandhiji were telling. All the people, they are all equal. No one is above law, no one is a downtrodden one who will not have any reach for the constitution. Untouchability is a crime, the constitution declared. These are the very words in the constitution. Untouchability is a crime. It has to be punished. It was brought into the directive principles of state policy. So, Ambedkar not only was chairman of the drafting committee, he became the first law minister of India. First law minister of independent India. The first cabinet of Nehru was a wonderful cabinet. Dr. Patel, Sardar Patel was home minister. Abul Kalam Azad, he was the education minister. So all key persons, they were in the cabinet. It's a very strong cabinet then. So modernity, rationality, Western thoughts, all these had sway on Dr. Ambedkar's thinking. Gandhiji's thinking was Swadeshi, altogether different. He wanted to find answer for everything in our Vedas, Upanishads, Buddhistic thoughts, our religions here, in the rural functioning of India, handicrafts, Swadeshi, Swarajya, everything was India. But Dr. Ambedkar had the influence of the modern revolutions that were going on in Europe and other countries, America, rationality, Western thoughts, all these had an impact on his thinking. And above all, we have to say, he did not have faith in Hinduism. He resigns, leaves Hinduism and becomes a Buddhist follower. With thousands of others, he walks into Buddhism. He thought, as far as casteism is there in Hinduism, this is not a religion that is acceptable to me. He wanted a religion where everyone was equal. So he embraces Buddhism. That was Ambedkar, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chairman of the Indian Constitution's drafting committee. Let's continue in the next video. Thank you.